Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Hi, I'm Rob Charney, Old Guy Tech TV, and we're here today with Bill George of EID. And Bill's been on the board for a number of years now. Your third term, I believe.
I just started my third term this year, yes.
Third term, that's going to be great. So anyway, let's take a look at and then let's talk about stuff, Bill.
Okay.
Why don't you tell a little bit about the EID's mission statement? What is EID?
Well, EID is a public agency, and it's organized under the California Irrigation Law, California Water Law, as an irrigation district, as opposed to a public utility district, such as PG&E and so on. So we are not under the thumb of the Public Utilities Commission.
Okay.
We are simply a semi-autonomous group run by 5 members of the board of directors. And we have 2 employees, which are the general manager and the general counsel. Our mission basically is to provide clean and safe drinking water and sewage services to the folks in El Dorado County.
Yeah. Now, you said how many employees of EID?
Well, we have about 221 or 22 right now.
And that's and EID goes from where to where?
EID goes from the county line, which actually we have a little bit of our district actually into Sacramento County, which makes us a multi-county agency having to do with the distribution of property taxes, another one of those bureaucratic nightmares.
Oh my! But
we go all the way up to almost 8,000 feet to Strawberry.
Okay.
We also have Outingdale, which is a little. Back in the day when things were done on a handshake as opposed to as we try to do them today with some rationale and so on. When a small district had a problem, usually a financial problem because they were so small, they were taken over by EID, and that has happened. And then we are also subject to LAFCO rules as far as being a special district. We can annex people into the district. If you look at a district map of El Dorado County, you'll find that we have, in addition to an outside perimeter boundary, we have a lot of little holes. Kind of looks like a national forest map.
Sure.
Where it looks like a checkerboard. And we fill those in as things either wells dry up and people petition us to be part of our district, such that we've grown. I think we have about almost 50,000 customers, and we've added 20,000 since 2000.
Really?
Yeah. So those are hookups. Those are hookups.
Those are hookups.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that mostly from the new construction in Serrano?
Mostly from the new construction in Serrano, and also south of 50.
Okay.
All the El Dorado Hills, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of the story.
So just for my edification a little bit, your main storage. I know you got Sly Park. Or Jenkinson Lake, whatever you call it, and what else do we have for storage?
Well, we have the district was very lucky to have had as its basis farmers and miners to procure water rights back in the 1800s. Most of when I came on the board, for instance, I was elected in 2003. That was the year that we acquired Jenkinson Lake as our own property. It had belonged to the Bureau. That was built as part of the Central Valley Project with Folsom back in the 50s. And they had controlled it from that time on, and that's about 23,000 acre feet. Right now, we have about 80,000 acre feet of water rights. Now, 80,000 acre feet, the average home uses, depends on where you're at in the county, up in the country where I live, up in Swansboro or in Pollock, the average is about 0.55 acre feet per year.
Okay.
Roughly. In El Dorado Hills, a little bit more, probably about 3/4, mostly because of size of outdoor irrigation.
Right.
Most of the water is used for outdoor irrigation. So, but we've acquired like I said, Sly Park, Jenkinson Lake, that was acquired in 2003. We have about 32,000 acre feet of water rights in what's called Project 184. This was a project of water and power that we bought from PG&E in 1999. After the 97 flood, the powerhouse was destroyed.
Right, yeah.
And they sold it to us for $1.
Yeah.
and gave us in the neighborhood of $15 or $16 million because of the fact it was not operating at that time.
Right.
The most important part of that, in addition to the power, was the fact that it's 15,080 acre-feet of pre-1914 water rights. And water rights have always been contentious in California.
Yeah.
Pre-1914 means that the state of California basically doesn't have control of them. When the State Water Resources Control Board was formed in 1914-15, they took over, and the legislature declared that all surface water belonged to the state of California. Prior to 1914, it did not. So we have that advantage, and we had several directors prior to our current board of directors who opposed buying that project. They wanted the water, but they didn't want the power project. And of course, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission said, no, this is a project. But that includes water from Lake Aloha, and which is in the Desolation Wilderness.
Oh, okay.
We have water rights there. We have water rights in Caples, which is in Alpine County, and also Silver Lake, which is in Amador County. And of course, when we acquired those water rights, acquired that project, we also acquired the responsibility for recreation on those, which is can be a problem of sorts. So we do the whole enchilada, if you will. We do water supply, wastewater treatment, recycled water from that wastewater.
And you have a good project going on.
Yes,
with
we
the
have.
Wastewater.
We've been doing that. We recycle over 2,000 acre feet.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And now an acre foot is 325,000 gallons.
So
that's a lot of
water. Yeah.
And we're working on making that more efficient as we go. We're trying to find money now to do some storage for recycled water, because we produce more in the winter than we can use.
Right.
So we need a place to store it.
Right.
Otherwise, we have to supplement it with potable during the summer, which we don't like to do.
Except for this winter.
Well, yeah. And the powerhouse, like I said, it was. There's an awful lot of regulations due to the fact that it's federally regulated, and it exists almost entirely on Forest Service land, on federal land. And they, even though they don't do anything, they still charge us a fee to use their land, which is kind of strange, but the bureaucracy is alive and well.
And they call it a fee and not a tax, which it really is.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. So we have, like I said, we have some of that water rights is actually in Folsom Reservoir. Right.
Okay.
But we have our system is such that we have interties between the two main sources. Two main sources of water are the Alpine lakes that I mentioned, and also then the other is Jenkinson. And the Jenkinson Lake is actually on the Cosumnes watershed. And the water that goes out of Jenkinson goes back into the Cosumnes. So, but we have that 23,000 acre feet there. But the Project 184 water, 15,000 acre feet of that is in the Alpine lakes, and via the American River at Kybers. That's where we have our diversion.
Okay, right.
And we have a 22-mile canal that runs down from there to the Forebay and Pollock Pines.
Right.
And so we've acquired that. There are 17,000 acre feet additional Project 184 that we have acquired, and that resides at the present time in Folsom Reservoir. If we had some storage, we would love to store it uphill so that we can serve it by gravity.
Right.
Right now, we can serve anybody in the county via gravity, but we can't supply them the full amount that they would use. So in an emergency kind of thing, we can supply water from Jenkinson to El Dorado Hills, for instance.
Oh, I see. So do you pump from Folsom up to El Dorado Hills?
We pump. We have a pump station. We have a straw. We call it in Folsom Lake. That pumps up to a water treatment plant in El Dorado Hills, in the north end of El Dorado Hills. Right up near, there's a grade school up there, I believe, an elementary school. In fact, it's right next to an elementary school. When we just expanded the capacity of that plant, and we had to expand it within its physical facility,
within its footprint.
because there's a a city park site next to it on the north side. On the south side is an elementary school. So we have to do that. We in the future, who knows? We may have to build another water treatment plant down there. But
so we're probably pretty good right now with the population that we stand at.
We're very good. We sell today about 43 to 45,000 acre feet a year, and we have rights to 80,000.
Okay.
Now those rights aren't totally perfected. It's a little, it's kind of strange. But for instance, the water that we have another 15,000 acre feet of water that was given to us via a House of Representatives bill in 1990. Vic Fazio.
Oh yes.
Vic Fazio. It's called a Fazio water.
Right.
We still don't have the use of that water because in order to get, even it's our water, we have the water rights. It's in Folsom Reservoir, which is a federal facility. We have to get a permit to use it out of an agreement, basically.
Right.
Well, not only has it been 20 years, but we've spent several $1 million trying to acquire those because we have to pay them to give us rights. Oh, it gets nuts. So we're looking forward to that in the future. It was held up. The Bureau of Reclamation, in my opinion, and strictly my opinion, does whatever they can to not have to make a decision so that nobody will be responsible, kind of thing. I may be misreading that, and there are a lot of good people that I've dealt with in the Bureau, but
how do they get elected or how do they get in possession of the Bureau of Reclamation?
Well, the Bureau of Reclamation is a department in the Department of Interior.
Okay, so it's federal.
It's federal, yeah.
Okay,
it's federal, and it's part of the Central Valley Project,
gotcha.
Which includes Shasta, and there's a couple other Trinity. Those are in Folsom. Those are all federal facilities.
Right.
So if you want to use water out of a federal facility, even though you may have water rights to it,
right.
And then the Fish and Wildlife get involved.
Right.
In fact, we're in the process in order to use that water and the 17,000 acre feet of Project 184 water, which the current diversion point is Folsom. We have to get we have to figure out a way to only take the warmest water to leave the coldest water. So it's called a temperature control device.
Right. I remember that. There was a whole big issue with Fish and Game on that.
And what we're doing now is we're Fish and Wildlife, as particularly, which Fish and Game probably got involved too.
Right.
But it involved the plant preserve and Pine Hill Plant Preserve and all that kind of stuff that we had to buy more property there. We and the county, we've spent millions of dollars on that property, which our ratepayers, unfortunately, are paid for in the hookups.
Yeah.
And what that has to do with the water use out of Folsom, I don't have any idea, but that's what we have to do. But we're working now with the Bureau because with all the changes that are being made to Folsom Dam right now, the new spillway and the rise on the heights and so on, we're working on a global, if you will, a better temperature control device at the dam itself that will control the whole reservoir. Because when you look at 1 million acre feet, which Folsom is just under 1 million, 997,000 acre feet, and we want to take 17,000 acre feet, they lose more than that in evaporation in a year.
Right.
So what effect that is going to have on the temperature is almost none.
Right.
And so they spend all this time modeling, and then they can't agree on what the model says and whether it's the right model. It gets real crazy.
Typical government broad.
It is.
I mean,
it's a fascinating business. Because as you know, my background was electronics.
Right.
I was a computer guru with IBM,
Yeah.
and I didn't know much more about water than the fact you turn it on and the water came out the faucet.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot more.
That's the only way it works for me.
I've been involved, and I've gotten it like anything else that I do. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't dip my toe in the water. I jump in both feet.
Yeah.
We have an organization called the Mountain Counties Water Resources Association, which is an association of water agencies up and down the Sierra. Because it turns out about 65%, depending on who you ask, 65 to 75% of the state's water supply comes from the snowpack in the Sierra. So we're very involved in trying to get control of that because as you know, the state of California is controlled by 9 counties when it comes to the legislature. and so we don't have a lot of clout. So I'm the chairman this year, have been for the last year and a half of that organization, have been on that board for several years. Then we have another JPA, a Joint Powers Authority, called the Regional Water Authority, which is basically a Sacramento-based. There are 22 agencies now, 20 including 2 in the foothills, Placer County Water Agency and us, EID. And I've been on the board of that organization for about 6 years now. And I've been on the executive committee for 3 years, and I was the chairman of that last year. So,
you really do jump in.
I do.
Yeah.
So, but it's so fascinating, Rob, because I'm learning new things all the time, and I like to think it's keeping me young. But
well, you're looking great. You're looking great.
So,
well, that's good. So, again, a little bit of history on EID. Why don't you go back to EID? I think you said it was 87 years old.
Yeah,
or something like that.
It was formed in 1925.
1925. Okay.
With it was actually a vote of the public to start the district. Prior to that, it was mostly made up with miners and farmers.
Sure.
It was at that
that's
time,
all it was here.
That's all. Yeah. There was a very large agricultural business back in those days with pears primarily.
Right.
But and the mining, of course, obviously is everybody knows about that. But we've done a lot of things, and we're very proud of what we've accomplished in those 82 years, 87,
87. Yeah, that's what my notes are telling me.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, absolutely. So, talk to me a little bit about the powerhouse and how that works.
Well, the powerhouse is it's located on American River, just almost across the river from one of the SMUD powerhouses.
Oh,
it's on the south side of the river, fed by a penstock that comes out of the Forebay Reservoir in Pollock Pines. Okay.
Define a penstock. So
a penstock is basically a big pipe.
Okay, so
just
there's
a big pipe. It's a big pipe. It's big enough to water. It's eight or I'm not sure exact diameter.
This is a big pipe.
9 feet in diameter.
Okay.
It starts off in what's called a low pressure, where coming out of the Forebay, it comes at a slight angle, and then it goes down like this, where it's high pressure. And of course, that requires additional maintenance and so on. But that provides water out of the Forebay. The Forebay Reservoir is just a very small reservoir that is at the end of the canal, the main canal, or the El Dorado Canal. And we also take drinking water. That's where we take our drinking water, the 15,080 acre feet. We take that to the water treatment plant there in Pollock Pines. Any remaining water, we dump down the hill basically, and we have 2 10.5 megawatt generators down there, so we could generate 21 megawatts maximum.
Okay.
And they're the old Pelton wheel generators from way back, but they haven't found. They work great. When we took it over in 1999, it had been devastated by the 97 flood.
Right. The
building is equivalent to about probably a 4-story building, and there were windows at about the 3rd-story level. They were taken out by the flood. The amount of water in that can, it was over a 100-year flood.
Yeah, that was an ugly flood.
So they were the generators were completely rebuilt.
Right.
They've been working beautifully. We've had to stabilize some hillsides down in that area. It's very, very steep.
Right.
Kind of interesting watching them do that with dozers and stuff up there hanging from a cable from anchors above.
I don't know how those guys do that.
I don't know how they do it.
It's amazing.
Either. But that has been, even though it was opposed back in the 90s, and it was buying that project was only passed on a 3-2 vote, and the third vote only changed his mind, I think, during the day. But so we ended up with that, and we started out very very cautiously because there's the electricity market is kind of funny in that if you jump in with both feet, it's kind of like any other kind of investment. If you want a big return on your investment, you take a lot of risk.
Sure.
And it's the same way. So there's basically 5 different levels that you can go in at. We went at the first level, And I guess we were collecting maybe $3 to $4 million a year on power sales, which really wasn't covering the cost of maintaining with all the federal regulations that had to be with both the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. In fact, we relicensed the project. We got our license in 2006. That was about a 5 or 6 year process, even though it was an existing project. So we did that, and then we went after about 2 years of operating like that. We went to the next level and became. In both cases, we were basic wholesalers of electricity. So then 2 years ago, we were able to negotiate a contract directly with PG&E, which boosts our annual income from the power plant to about $8 to $10 million, depending on the water year. Now, last year it was $11 million,
right,
because of the excess water.
This year,
might be a whole different story.
Yeah.
But in fact, due to that, we were able to pay down $2 million on our debt, $2 million additional.
How wonderful is that?
No, it's great. It's great. Even though the interest rate on our accumulated debt is under 5%.
Sure.
A lot of some of it's variable, and it's actually the variable rates are now under 1% even.
Can you imagine?
It's unbelievable.
Good opportunity for EID though.
It really is. It really is because we were on a fairly large capital improvement budget for the first years I was on the board.
Right.
Because the boards, for some reason or other, during the 90s, seemed to put off maintenance, and so we basically decided we were going to fix that. So we were spending $70-80 million a year, and of course a lot of that had to be borrowed.
Right.
So we're down now. We're more in a maintenance mode right now. We're in the $15 to $20 million a year. Our current outstanding debt is around $380 million right now. Mm-hmm. Our annual debt payment is about service payment is about $20 million. That's going to vary from year to year depending on We went through a bubble in the early 2000s, like I said.
Right.
And I know when I came on the board in late 2003, early 2004, and I saw the capital improvement project budget was $380 million for the next 5 years, because we do a rolling 5 year.
Right.
I said $380 million over 5 years. Man, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So,
a lot of money, yeah.
And we've had a lot of pushback on whether or not we needed to do that, but you don't have much of a choice sometimes. The Pleasant Oak, Maine is a good example.
Yeah.
Coming out of Pollock Pines, that had been put in, and I think that was a 24 or a 30-inch main. It was put in by the Bureau back in the 80s using what was called Techite pipe. It was new technology. It was fiberglass.
Oh, my goodness!
Unfortunately, it came apart. It was, and so they gave us some money for it in the 90s, which the district didn't do anything with at that time. So but they ended up giving us, I think, either $600,000 or $800,000. We replaced that 3 or 4 years ago for $22 million.
Wow.
But we also increased size. It's now, I think, a 42-inch main, if I'm not mistaken.
Larger capacity.
Larger capacity.
Right. We
also put in facilities, because when you're coming downhill, a lot of people say, well, it's just free ride water downhill. But it builds up pressure. Mm-hmm. So you have to relieve that pressure. Yeah. So you have what's called pressure reduction stations. Well, we've made provisions in that main to change those pressure reduction stations to generators to generate electricity.
Wow.
And again, getting the money to do that, and of course, then once you generate the electricity, you have to get it to a transmission main.
Right.
So it's complex, but we've been doing a lot of planning ahead like that.
Yeah.
And when things break, it was costing us. We had 3 or 4 breaks in that line. One of them, it flooded a school in Pleasant Valley. It was costing us $1 million a hit.
Jeez.
To repair those, because, I mean, now Fish and Games comes in. You know, what'd you do to our streams? And you're familiar with Fish and Games.
Oh, I am. I remember the one. What Bill is talking about is a number of years ago I sat on the Fish and Game Commission, and so I'm kind of familiar with some of the issues that we got involved with, and it had a lot to do with the waste treatment plants as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And the temperature situation for the fish. So.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
When you look at it, we've got 2 major wastewater treatment plants, one on Deer Creek and one on Carson Creek. Both of those creeks were seasonal streams.
Right.
Now they're considered year-round navigable waters of the United States.
Yeah, it changes the whole thing.
Yeah, it's actually cheaper for us to send that water, the recycled water, the treated water out of the wastewater treatment plants. It's cheaper to put in a whole separate purple pipe system for front and back lawn watering than it is to chill it and put it back in a stream. So we end up there's still a minimum. Hey, we have certain minimums.
Sure.
I don't know.
But that takes the pain out of it.
Well, it does. It does.
It's a good thing.
But I just my biggest problem. And when I talked about the capital improvements earlier, the vast majority, I say vast, but I don't know what the percentage is. It varies from year to year. But probably over the years that I've been on the board, 50 to 70% of those upgrades have been mandated requirements, unfunded mandates.
Right.
Either the feds or the state, generally the state in our case, will tell you you've got to do this. For instance, our discharge permit to discharge into those streams has to be renewed every 5 years. Of course, there's a fee for that. And not only is there a fee, but the State Water Resources Control Board, who controls water quality, always increases the number of constituents you have to test for and take out, smaller particles of this, smaller particles of that.
They keep making it more and more difficult every year.
Yes, and that's why so many smaller districts can't keep up.
Oh, yeah. It's just the cost is prohibitive.
It is. It really is. Yeah. And ratepayers are starting to rebel.
Well, we can only pay so much. Now, this just quickly off the top of your head, what if I was to build a new house now and I need to buy a meter? What are we looking at?
We're looking at about 18,000, I think. I don't know the real number, but it's in the neighborhood of $18,000.
Yeah, see that,
and because when we sell a meter, we have to incorporate all of the costs that are associated with bringing that water to you and
everything that goes along with it. I understand that, but
we review that every 4 or 5 years to make sure we're doing it properly and charging the right people. Because there's and of course when you build a new house, that means that we need to have that capacity in the water treatment plant, and if you're in a wastewater customer, in a wastewater treatment plant, and you can't build that one stall at a time, so to speak.
No, you can't. No, I understand
it. And we have some ratepayers who think that, like right now, we increased the capacity at the wastewater treatment plant in El Dorado Hills by 50%. When we went through that process, we were going to increase it 100%. But this was in 2007, and the downturn was already starting. So we said, let's only cut this in half. Well, there's still people that are ticked off because we have too much capacity. But you don't want to have too little capacity.
Or better to have a little too much than a little too little.
Or you have raw sewage run down the street, which ain't going to...
That wouldn't be good.
No, that's not too good.
No, the heck with those guys. Really, we're getting down on time here, and of course, I'd like to have you come back because I think water is a great discussion, and everybody needs to know about it. But two things. One is, why don't you talk about the challenges? What is EID facing now? What's the biggest challenge, and what is your continued, what do you feel as you go along, your continued effort with EID?
Well, it's twofold. One is our biggest cost is people. And with being a public agency, our salaries and retirement benefits and health benefits are all kind of geared to the state and county rules, if you will, of what's going on. And we have to compete with other people because you or I couldn't go in and operate a water treatment plant or a wastewater treatment plant. You have to have a license. You have to have the training, which makes sense. And those people, they command a decent salary, and so we have to worry about that. Luckily, we anticipated this back in 2007. We realized that we were kind of top heavy, and we've ended up since 2007. We had over 300 employees, and we're down, like I said, to 221 now through attrition, through some layoffs, unfortunately. We were able to negotiate a really good memorandum of understanding with our employees association. We have an internal employees association, not associated with with any of the major unions, which I'm happy for because they can get kind of heavy-handed sometimes. These people have a stake in, because they live in a community and work in a community, and they have a stake in what's going on.
Right.
But continuing to maintain good employees at a reasonable price is one of my major concerns.
Right.
The other one, of course, is capital improvements. How do you keep paying for this? The infrastructure. There have been studies out, a lot of national studies lately from the Society of Engineering. I don't have the right term, but
it's fine.
From national engineering associations and so on that have studied this, and the water and wastewater infrastructure is going to hell in a handbasket. Pardon my French, but they just.
Well, that goes along with everything else: roads, bridges.
But
you name it.
There we have the city of Placerville has had that recent problem with the sewer, the sewer treatment plant, and there you have a very small. You have less than 4,000 ratepayers supporting a $45 million sewage treatment plant, and it was necessary. There's a lot of things we could talk about in hindsight, but hindsight is what it is. There were talks at one time of them sending their effluent down to us, to our Deer Creek wastewater treatment plant, via the Southern Pacific right-of-way. It had been perfect because we had excess capacity at that time. The Deer Creek plant was last upgraded when the 1996 general plan was passed, and then of course it was thrown out by the courts.
Right.
and the new 2004 general plan has a much smaller growth curve. So we had the excess capacity. Why that didn't get done, I don't. It was before my time on the board. I don't mean to excuse it.
No.
I'm just saying I don't know the facts. But that's one thing that could have been done, but it coulda, shoulda, woulda is always easy to say. Easier to say than do.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to come back anytime. And you notice I hate to talk about water.
I can tell. It's so funny because we go back a ways, and we go back before your passion for water.
Yes.
And it was funny. I was approached a number of years prior to that. It says, Rob, why don't you run for EID? And I said, because I don't have a passion for water. I'll drink it, but I can't do what Bill does here. I mean, he lives and breathes it. So we need people like you. I think you're doing a great job. EID is, for us, we're on the EID here. I have no complaints. Yeah, I'd like the rates to be a little lower, but who wouldn't?
Everybody wouldn't.
That's right. We all would. So, so I think this is a great subject. I think the people that are watching the show in our area are always interested in what's going on and hearing from, because it's nice to have you here, a representative of your board, to come and talk a little bit about really what's going on. And I've been to some of these meetings, and they turn into being a quagmire of people just whining and sniveling instead of really listening to what's going on. And I really appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us. And do you have any parting words, any last thoughts that you might come about?
I don't think so. Just
keep paying your bill. Right?
Use your water wisely. Use it wisely. And we'll continue to bring you safe and tasty water.
There you go.
Very, very little water around that's better tasting than good old Sierra.
Yeah. It's hard to beat our water.
Oh, yeah. It's really hard to beat. So,
well, I definitely want to have you back because there's a whole bunch of other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Valley Project, the water project. I want to talk about a number of other things about the water that's going down to Southern California. So maybe in a month or so we'll schedule it again. And because I think this topic is so important to so many people, especially if we're facing this drought.
Right, and that's right. And I've been involved in that as well, being with the Regional Water Authority and the mountain counties. We're involved with the Northern California Water Association as well, which is the farming association of the Sacramento Valley, and SACOG. Right. We've even got SACOG involved now. So because we're having to get as much clout as we can to push back on the Southern California and the coastal interests.
Yeah, well, we got to do that. We got to protect our interests. And but I don't think anybody out there, the general public, I don't think really understands what we're facing.
No, they don't.
There's some of them don't even know where the water comes from.
Oh, I know.
So why don't you just pull it out of the ground?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Nobody can do it.
What do you have to treat it for? You just take it off the river and
just
Yeah.
Good luck to them, huh? Hey, Bill, I want to thank you very much for coming by. I really look forward to more of this. And hey, thanks for watching the show. This is Old Guy Tech TV, and the more we get you to visit, the more we're going to do. More we're going to get some great interviews from guys like Bill George here and some others. We have Sam Paradas of Gun Owners of California coming in on Wednesday, so watch that. We got some local area news that we've got coming up, and our Friday Roundtable as well. So thanks for visiting. We'll see you soon. Hi, this is Rob Charney with Old Guy Tech TV, and I want to talk to you today about Windfall. Windfall has 2 outstanding offers for you to take advantage of. They have their 12-week business-only ad for just $60. That's just $5 a week. You're not going to find a better deal anywhere. Windfall has a rewards program like no other, a real windfall. Give us 5 and your ad is free. So refer 5 people or businesses and you get your ad for free. Visit Windfall on the web at www.shopthewindfall.com or call 530-621-1698. Everybody needs a windfall. Thank you, Windfall. See you soon.